All right, g'day Lindy, how are you?
Hello, I'm fine, thank you very much.
That's the go. All right, so welcome to a little session on common rail diesel fuel systems today. My name's Joe, but I think you already know that.
Thank you, Joe.
So this unit is part of AUR TTF 102, which is part of the light vehicle technology. So we're just going to specifically work on the common rail fuel system, the functions, components, and all that sort of stuff in there too. So let's just get straight into that. Before we do, just make sure you're comfortable, you've got a drink of water, you're not back sitting fine. Restrooms are just over that way to the left, and if for some reason the house catches fire, the front door or the side door, just to get out of harm's way. So,
Thank you.
okay, so common rail fuel systems. We're just going to call them CRDs, okay? Because we can't say common rails forever; it'll take too long. So, a common rail diesel fuel system is a type of fuel injection system used in a modern diesel engine. It delivers fuel to the engine cylinders under very high electronically controlled pressure. This system relies on a central common rail that stores pressurized fuel, which is then precisely metered and injected into the cylinders by electronically controlled fuel injectors. Okay, So that's a very basic overrun on the whole system, but that's we're going to dive into all of what that means pretty much straight away. So before we do that, I've got a little quiz here for you to do. So don't fret. It's just, you got a pen. It's just to see if you have any underlying knowledge that I don't know about when it comes to fuel systems and injectors and all that sort of stuff. So take 5 minutes, have a flick through those questions, and we'll see how you go. Then once you finish, just let me know.
Right, thank you.
There we go.
Thank you.
No worries.
Well, I've answered as best I can to my knowledge at the moment.
Have you had anything to do with diesels in the past?
Unfortunately, not really. No.
Not really.
Just in talking with my son occasionally.
Yeah, okay, right, yeah. That's the go. Okay, very good. That's okay. Well, hopefully by the end of this, you'll be an expert. So.
Well, I hope so.
Okay, so we're going to have a closer look now. So I've recorded a little video. I'm just going to pop it up now on the common rail fuel system. So basically, it's just going to explain the components, the functions of the components, and also a little bit about what they sort of do. So I'll just bring that up now. And feel free, you can take as many notes as you like.
Thank you.
Because you might need to rely on them a little bit later. Oh,
Yeah.
What's happened? Here we go.
G'day guys.
Slow down. Alright, so.
When this.
Oh my god. Alright, here we go.
G'day guys.
Okie dokes. You ready?
Yes,
Right,
thank you.
here we go.
This is just a quick little video on the common rail diesel fuel system with the components and the flow. So we'll just start at the fuel tank. Pretty basic this one. When you fill your car up, that's where your fuel goes. So not much more to say on that one. Sender unit that is inside the tank. So the sender unit's job is to relay how much fuel is in your tank to your dashboard. So that's literally your fuel gauge that you see when you're driving. From there up to your fuel filter. So in most cases you're going to have an in and an out port. So in being from the tank through the filter and then out to the high pressure pump. High pressure pump's going to compress the fuel and push push it straight into your fuel rail. And the fuel rail's job is to evenly distribute fuel into your injectors before going to the combustion chamber. So your injector is controlled by your ECU, so telling it when to fire and how much fuel to fire into the combustion chamber. And once all this fuel here is gone and there's any excess fuel, it's still heated up and compressed, it's got to go into a fuel cooler, which will get it back down to a reasonable degree after all the hard work it's just done. So from the fuel cooler, it'll get spat back straight into your tank to repeat all over again.
Oop.
G'day.
So there we go.
Right.
Any questions on that so far?
No, that's so the high pressure pump injector ECU, excess fuel to the cooler and back into the tank.
Yep, that sounds pretty
Okay.
good. All right, we'll leave that there for the minute. So that's good. Okay, you took out all the right bits of that.
Thank you.
Where's the button here? Here. That's where I'm going. Yeah, okay, so that's good. So that's just it. Pretty much in a nutshell of what's involved in a fuel system. A common rail fuel system, I should say. Okay, so like stomach acid, we're going to break all this down for you so it makes a bit more sense, okay? So
Yes.
here's the fuel tank and the sending unit. So this is where it all sort of starts, okay? So you go to the servo, you put fuel in your tank, it goes into your fuel tank, okay? That's pretty much the basics of the fuel tank. There's not much else to it apart from these little baffles here. Can you see that okay?
Oh yes.
Yep.
Yep.
So I'm not too sure what this fuel tank's off. It looks like a high performance racing kind of fuel tank, but these little baffles here, little segments, we'll call them segments. So you've got little walls within the tank with holes, so that allows fuel to pass through the tank. Because obviously if you're going around a corner, it's like when you're playing corners at school on the school bus. If you hit a corner and you all lean to one side, that's what fuel would do without the baffles. And if it did do that, it would suck air through the sending unit, which will make the car potentially stall out and run a bit rough. So the whole idea is to keep the fuel as flat as we can, so there's no chance of it sucking up air through the sending unit. So that's a bit about the baffles. And this is your little sending unit here. So this is a pretty generic one. So this little part here, that's your float. So what that does is that triggers a light on your dash to say, I need fuel. That's when your warning light comes on. It says you need some more fuel. And this one looks to me like it's got an extra little pump in here too. So that's going to help to get fuel up and out to the next part of the process. But basically this sending unit's job is to let you know that you need fuel. So this little float will come up when the tank's full, and as it drains down slowly, it'll just come down, get to a certain point and throw the light on the dash to say I need more fuel. So that's how those two work. All the sensors are in there as well. There's a little electrical plug at the top, so there's a sensor all down through here which will trigger that light as well. And there's no picture here, but the filler neck it's not just a piece of pipe that goes to your tank. That's pretty well engineered for flow and all the rest of it, and most of the time it's got the breather from the fuel tank on it too. So fuel moves around a lot, which can create a bit of pressure, so that pressure's got to go somewhere too. So that little breather allows the pressure to escape from the tank. Okay, fuel filters. There's a few different ones here. So let's start with this one here in the middle. So this fuel filter here is a basic 252X, we'll call it. That's on most Land Cruisers and all that sort of stuff, the older ones. So, and that belongs to this housing here. So you've got an in, this line here is coming from the fuel tank in here, through the filter, gets at all the contaminants, and it comes back out this side into the pump, which is the next piece. This is a hand primer. So what that means is if you do a service on the car, you'll unbolt this little housing, unscrew the filter, get rid of it. New filter goes on, you've got some new O-rings here. And then once you put the filter back on the housing, you'll put this line from the tank back on, and then you have like a little hose clamp or something. You do it up, and then with your hand, you just pump that little black button on the top. And that'll get sort of firm. And once you see fuel start to come out here as you're pumping, that means it's primed and ready to go. So you stop that, put that line back on, do it up with your screwdriver or whatever, then pump it a few more times, then your system is ready to go again. But in this case, this is off my car, pretty much exactly off my car. So you can see how this one you've got an in and out, or just two outlets. This one's got 4, so you've got 1, 2, 3, 4.
Sorry, Joe. What's that called?
Which one? This one?
The one on the right.
Just your fuel filter housing.
A fuel filter housing.
Yep. And that's just the primer setup. So this one here, yeah, like I said, that's the hand primer. So that's just pump the primer once you've put a new filter on and that sort of stuff. And this one over here, this is no hand priming. This is all done by the ECU again. So you turn the ignition on and you'll hear it start to fire up and pump fuel through. So if you replace a filter out of that one, that's this filter here. So you put it in there, screw it on, put it back together, and you'll put on ones from the tank to the engine and the ones from the engine to the tank. So what that means is fuel comes up, fills it up, it'll go from here to the next part, which is the pump, which we'll get to that. And then once it gets all fueled up there and it's got excess, it'll come back into the filter, and then from the engine into the filter, then back down to the tank, which we'll get to again later. Okay. That's just another way of getting fuel back to the tank, basically. So that's those. So in this one down here, I just thought I'd throw this in just because we could. This is an aftermarket filter. So what that means is it's not factory. It won't come, the car won't come this brand new. Sorry, it won't come with this brand new. You put that in to your system to get any extra little pieces of contaminants out of your fuel. So having clean fuel is very essential for not damaging any of your injectors and the pump and that sort of stuff. So that's why the filter is quite early on in the piece. So this secondary filter, what people do, they'll put it in their system just to make sure there's no little bits of nitty stuff getting in, because if you're out in the middle of the Simpson Desert, you're not sure what the fuel quality is going to be. To have one of those is just a second piece of insurance, just to make sure that you're getting the best quality fuel you can wherever you are. So that's basically about the fuel filter. But yeah, again, that's all well and good, but its main job is just to get any dirt and contaminants out of the fuel, because diesels are quite a dirty fuel from the start, unlike petrol, because petrol cars only have a filter, it's about this big. You never really change it. So every 10,000 k's we like to do these at work, so just to make sure that it's all clean and going to run how it should. Okay, onto the fuel pump. Just look at these photos. Which one do you reckon would be the high pressure common rail pump, and which one do you reckon the mechanical pump would be? Just add a guess.
The top one.
What's the top one?
High pressure one.
Good work. Okay, so this is your high pressure pump, and compared to its old dinosaur predecessor, it is night and day difference. So as you can see on this one, the common rail pump, you've got one line in, one line out, and then your return, which again we'll get to later. This mechanical pump, I do like a mechanical pump, but we're not here to talk about them, so I won't do it too much. But you've got these little red caps on the back here. This is off a 18Z, so it's a Toyota Land Cruiser fuel pump. All those little outlets go to each cylinder. So, and inside this whole pump, you've got shafts and stuff which push the fuel to where they need to go. So it's a very complex design compared to just a high pressure pump which we use nowadays. So
is that why you like that one?
I like that because it's just very interesting.
Right.
It's just, yeah.
More so than the
Well,
other
usually you'd start with something like that, then you'd move on to this. But yeah, it's just really cool how it works. But I won't get too excited about it. But yeah, so the high pressure pump's job is basically to get the fuel once it's been through the filter, get to the pump, and that's just going to compress it and just push it straight into the next piece. But yeah, given common rail diesels really have a lot of pressure, they anywhere from 29,000 psi. It's a lot of pressure to deal with. So we need a pump that's going to be able to deliver that fuel. Okay, here's the fuel lines and the fuel rail. So this is what a common fuel rail looks like. They're all slightly different, but this is pretty much one in a nutshell. So you're going to have these little holes here are just mounting holes, so that's just where you mount it in the engine bay. You're going to have a line in, so that's from the fuel pump, for example, in. All these here, that's injector 1, 2, 3, and 4. That's a pressure switch, and then that is a temp gauge on that one too. So you're going to have all these things going on. So that weighs probably about 3 to 4 kilos. It's only that long, It's a pretty cool bit of gear. That's what's going to have nearly 30,000 pounds of pressure in it. This one piece. So it's pretty cool. So that's job is to get all the fuel in from the pump and evenly distribute it to the injectors via these little outlets here. So once it gets to a certain PSI, it can evenly distribute all the fuel as it needs to all those cylinders. So, and here's your fuel lines. So you probably can't see properly, but see on the ends of the fuel lines, they're sort of flattened out.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, that's a little mushroom style, which means once it goes into the injector, there's no way for the fuel to sort of escape once you do it up. Because like I said, there's a lot of pressure, and if that bursts, that'd be quite nasty. So they want to make sure that that doesn't leak and has no chance of leaking. So that's good. Sensors, yeah, like I said before, that's a rail pressure sensor. So again, controlled by the ECU. If it feels like the pressure is too high or too low, it'll make adjustments to either correct it, or it'll put the car in lit mode, which means it's like a fail safe, so the car doesn't have any major issues. And the temp sensors, again, just once this fuel's all heated up, if it's getting too hot, it won't fire properly, so it'll just tell it to sort of woe back a little bit and just take a bit of a breather. And again, probably put it in lit mode, but lit mode's a good thing to have on a car. So so they're the rails and the injector. Rails and the lines. Next we move on to the injector. So this is the nitty gritty bit. All the other stuff in this system, you know, it can work, but this has to be spot on because otherwise it just will not work properly. So that's your common rail injector. Big, long thing. There's a lot going on with this one, with this part. So this is the top of one. Not the greatest photo in the world, but you've got a little QR code. So when you install new injectors into a car, you have to code them in. Okay, so what that means, you can either use that or you can punch these numbers in here manually. I always use the numbers because you can't go wrong. So that's just me. So it'll be anywhere from a 13 to a 16, sometimes 20 number code you've got to put into your scan tool, because you can put injectors in and turn the car on and it'll run, but they're just going to free flow with no real direction. So you need to have control over them, otherwise the computer here won't know what to do, won't know how to control, it won't be able to control them. So up the top, that's where your plug goes. So that little top piece is this, what we're looking at here. So the plug goes in there, and then all through here, I would love to dissect all of that, but it's just, there's a lot to it and it's very cool, but we won't get into it too much. So in this line here, that is where the fuel comes in from the fuel rail. So it goes in there, you do it up nice and tight. And then on the top, you can't see on this one, but just that very top part of the injector there, right there, that's your return, right? Okay. So once it gets to a certain point, any leftover fuel gets returned back. And that's your ECU. So they all look relatively similar. Some are bigger, some are smaller, but that's sort of what they're looking at. So that drives the fuel system, and now in most cases drives the turbochargers, tells them how much boost, all that sort of stuff. So they've got to work well together. And here's a nozzle. So that photo there is pretty much just showing you how a nozzle works and how much fuel. That is like a very fine mist. It's not like a tap. It's just a very fine mist of fuel. So if I gave you an injector, which I haven't got with me unfortunately, you would not be able to see the holes in the bottom of the injector. They are that small that you can't see them. Hence why you need a lot of pressure to be able to push through the injector. So, and if these little holes clog up with, dirty fuel, for example, again, they won't work, which would mean that the computer thinks you're not getting enough fuel through, so it'll push more fuel through. But the problem with that is if you have too much fuel going into the top of your piston in your combustion chamber, you can crack pistons and do all sorts of stuff. So that's why we go back to the fuel filter. Got to change it regularly, because if it's getting dirty fuel, they can block up, and because, like I said, there's so much pressure getting pushed down, they can make things internally fail as well. So it could just be replacement of nozzles, or still a whole injector. But if you're going to do, if one injector fails, you do all of them. You don't just do one. So it could be a very expensive operation. Yeah. And yeah, like I said, coding before, you've got to plug the scan tool in and punch those numbers in, just so you can tell tell the ECU, this is what injectors in cylinder number 1, 2, 3, whatever it might be. Here's the numbers, and the computer goes, okay, I've got it. I'm talking to that injector now. I know what to do. So that's the injector. Okay, and after that whole process is finished, once you get past the pump to the fuel rail and then the injectors, they're all going to have return lines on them. So, excuse me, once the fuel goes past the fuel filter and gets to the pump, it starts to get hot, okay, because we're putting a lot of pressure into it. It's moving up to the rail, which again, nearly 30,000 pounds of pressure. It's going to get quite hot. Yeah. So once it gets past all those processes to the injector and whatever's left over, it'll all return back through a fuel cooler. It needs to get back down to a not so hot degree, because otherwise it'll pressurize the tank, and they can even balloon, like the plastic tanks can even balloon out and start to get, they can warp, which isn't good. So, and with the cars we work on at work, being four-wheel drives, some of the breathers on the tanks are blocked up too, so the air can't escape, which it can be bad. They can blow holes in and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, the cooler is a quite important piece. So it just goes one in, goes through here. It works the same as like a radiator would. It's got little fins. As you're driving, the fins catch the cold air, cool the fuel down. Then it comes back all the way through, back through another set of fins. Then it'll go from there back into your tank. So in theory, that'll keep it down to a nice temp to go all over again and repeat the process. So, you've been paying attention to all that.
Oh my goodness. Very informative, very
No, that's good.
explicit.
No, that's
Thank you,
okay.
Joe.
We'll just have a quick chat about anything that you might have any concerns about, or if something doesn't make sense, or something you find that did make sense. So I'll just sit this way a little bit so you can see. So now's the time. If you've got anything you need to ask or you're not sure of.
No, I was just when you were talking about the fuel filter, how important it is to change it regularly, because if you don't, it just causes so many other problems.
Yep, absolutely.
Which you probably wouldn't be, well, the normal person probably wouldn't be aware of.
Well, there's a reason why when we service cars that are diesels, they're a bit more expensive, because there's always a few more things you have to do, especially with fueling systems, because every 10,000 k's maximum. Like, it doesn't sound like a lot, and it probably isn't. Compared to a petrol car, like, they've got little fuel filters about this big. It look like a shot glass. They're not very big at all, because petrol's a cleaner fuel than diesel. So diesel's like a mongrel fuel. It's got all sorts of stuff in it, but that's why you have to clean it. And I did show you that second filter as well. That's a very popular option in the four-wheel drive sort of world as well. So you can have your standard filter plus a second one, just to get any other little bits of grit out of the system. But on the other side of that, in turn, there's also different microns, we call them, which means filtration. So you can have one that's like just not a very fine filter. So it'll go from your standard filter to the secondary filter, but it's not filtering a lot, but it's still doing something. Or you can go to I think it's like a 5 micron, which is very fine, but the only problem with that is potentially it can't let enough fuel through. So you're going to have a bit of a blockage in your fuel system. So you've got to get it right, because otherwise, it's all well and good to have all these different filters in the system, but it's still got to flow through and be able to withstand all the pressure it's going to. If there's a bit of a backup of pressure, you're going to lose power, probably going to blow smoke, your injector's going to run dry, which is again not very good. So filtration's a big one, but you can't just go bang on the first filter you see and go, "It's going to work." You got to work it out and just go, okay, what filter am I using? How much filtration is that giving me? How much can I get away with before it starts to clog it up? So filtering's a big one. It's not just as simple as putting one on, but like if you're just using your diesel to run around town, your factory filter will be just fine. There's no need to go overboard and get a second one. But if you're touring around Australia or going on some big trips where there's plenty of dirt and stuff everywhere, not so much dirt, but like the fueling's like scarce, not many fuel stations around, a second filter is always a good idea. So
okay. And also you mentioned about the coding. I think you mentioned that you always prefer to use the coding rather than what was the other?
QR code. So some do, some don't, but that one did. I just wanted to show because it's just the different options. But the QR code, because human error, sometimes people make mistakes.
Yes.
And I mean, if you don't punch in the right numbers, it won't code. It'll go, something's wrong. So you punch in if you get the numbers right and the letters right, it'll work. But if you get one letter wrong or one number wrong, it won't code. It'll say, well, try again. So you punch the code in again and it's sweet. So if you get a QR code and no numbers and it's wrong, game over. You got to get a new injector. So
of course.
Yep.
Okay. Oh, right. So what you're really saying for a lot of this is it's a circle. You've got to, everything works through a process and then getting back into the tank again.
Absolutely, yep.
And so that's the process that you were going through to ensure that it all works properly.
Yep.
Making its way home again.
Excuse me, yep. Speaking of process, here it is, in the flesh. So what we've got here, is it going to go away? Yeah, so the red arrows is into the motor and the blue is returned to the tank, like we said before. So it all starts from the fuel tank with your baffles and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Center unit, that sits on top of the tank. I've just got it sitting there just so you can understand the flow, but it sits on top of the tank so you won't actually see it. To your fuel filter, to your pump, and now it starts to go to the return. So the red's still the flow, that doesn't change, that'll never change. But once you get to the mechanical pump these days and the rail, and the injector, it's all going to go back into the cooler. Okay, so that's it's from this part on is where it starts to get hot, the fuel. Okay, so once it goes, whatever's left from this process from the pump to the rail, it goes back to the cooler. Whatever's left from the rail goes to the cooler. Injector lines, there's no return there because that's just straight from point A to point B. That's got one job and one job only. And with the injector, once it's full, that's a little spout there that comes off to the side. Okay, that'll return to there, to the cooler. Once it's cool, so there's the inlet, again through the fins, come down and then back to the tank, and then around we go again. And that'll just keep going until you run out of fuel.
Right, okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, right. I just find it very interesting that these baffles play such a huge part.
Yep. Well, you wouldn't think about it, I suppose, but yeah, you've got to, you can't run dry because it's just annoying as well. You got to reprime the whole system again because there will be air bubbles and all sorts of things. So it's yeah, it's a very well thought out system, but it's a very high tech compared to the mechanical one. Like the mechanical pump, like I showed you before, it's a big looking thing, but it's quite simple. And this is simple too, but it's just a lot of pressure. Like this is pushing out a lot of PSI, so it needs to be, yeah, it's all going to be working together. So, oh, there you go, you made it. Look at that little slide, isn't that beauty?
Oh, isn't that good?
Yeah, so what we'll do, one more little quiz for you, just to see if anything's sunk in. I hope it does, and I reckon it probably would have. So there's another quiz for you to start on.
Okay.
So yeah, if you just fill that out, take another 5 or so minutes and go from there.
Thank you.
There we go, you reckon?
I've done my very best.
Let's have a look. Yep, sloshing, good. You took that one. That one. That's
I did
good.
remember that one.
ECU, yep. Yes. Drain lines, yep. Tank pump. Yep, beautiful. Marvellous. That's good. That's 100% in the test.
Oh,
Unreal.
Thank you. Well, thank you for all your explaining and being so particular about everything, which of course you have to be because there's so much involved.
No, that's okay. It's been good fun, but that's pretty much we finished the little session, but I've just got a couple more slides here to show you some
please.
some dirty maintenance stuff. So so with the servicing, with the pump, you don't really service the pump itself. You can, but it shouldn't really need to be done unless it gets a mouthful of bad fuel. So here's an example of a very bad fuel filter. That's covered in black sludge.
Oh my goodness.
Not much is getting through that.
No.
Like, it's done its job to a certain point, but once it gets like that, it's not doing any more filtering at all.
No.
That's a fresh one, so you can see it should be white.
Difference.
You know what I mean?
Mm.
And then things like that can lead to, that's your injector nozzle. That is, you probably can't quite see, but that is blocked up. You'd be lucky to get any drops through there at all. It's completely blocked up. So once that gets full, it'll pump it through the pump, into the rail, and just, cause that's the last point of exit, you know?
Right.
And at high pressure, it's going to get there and it's going to clog it up, and that's game over. That injector is toasted, so no good. And with your injectors, you can get them tested too. If people have any worries that they're not working properly, you can sort of see on some modern scan tools what your compensation values are, which means how much it's flowing and that sort of stuff. But this is a proper injection testing machine. So it plumbs into a tank of diesel under there somewhere, and then they can monitor everything it's doing, what the spray pattern looks like. That's a big thing about it. It doesn't just dump fuel. It's got to have a certain spray pattern.
Right.
So that's what this machine does. But most of the time, I mean, if you're going to pull your injectors out and go late effort, you might as well just throw some new ones in.
Yeah.
But look, if you haven't got the cash, that is completely fine. Okay, so this is just a little bit of fun bit for me. So once you have all those bits of your fuel system dialed in and it's clean filters, everything's working well, the next step of the procedure, if you wanted to go down this road, is to make it go fast, because diesels can get up and about when they want to. They can really get up and boogie with the right bits. So you don't have to change too much. Like, it's not like you have to tear the motor down and build it up. Like, if you're building a drag car, then maybe. But for everyday street cars, you can just fine tune a couple of things to give it twice as much power as it's already got. So with the injectors, most of the time you just replace the nozzles, which is just this little bit that I just showed you. That little piece there, that's all you replace that, because in the high flow ones, you have like a 30, a 50, 70, 80, 100% flow. It's just a bigger hole down the bottom, which means more can come out. But the more fuel you have able to come out, you can adjust more. You've got more range of flow, more range of movement, I suppose, with the ECU. So it's not a bad idea to do. Fuel pump, you can replace the pump with a stroker fuel pump, which means the inside plunges a bigger diameter, which means it strokes more fuel through. So it just essentially means it's giving more fuel delivery to the injectors. Mm-hmm. Turbochargers, again, that's just more airflow, but the fuel delivery and the turbocharger work together. So you've got your air-fuel ratio, or AFRs. They've got to be between a certain point to make sure it is safe, reliable, and also going to pump heaps of power out. So turbochargers, you can get bigger compressor wheels, housings, exhaust housings. There's so much you can do with turbos. So that's a pretty cool one. And then intercoolers is to keep your pro-charged air cool, because if it's hot air, it's not going to run well. Diesel's like cold air and fuel, so you keep the cold air. High flow air intake, which just means your air filter, you get a bigger box which can allow more air to come through. And then once you have all those things, you can get an ECU remap, which is just, you put on a machine like that, and then you have a computer over here somewhere. When you drive the car, it has like real life value figures on the road. Then you can adjust your fueling, your turbocharging, and therefore make more power. So that's what that's for. So that's not what this is about really, but that's just one thing you can do. So that's your air intake. Air intake from there. Yeah. That's a bigger airbox. That's out of my car. That's a bigger turbo. Well, they all look exactly the same. It's just the internal pieces of what's the important stuff. And that's the nozzle there. injector nozzle. So you've got the 3 little holes there which deliver fuel down, and then they squirt out the top there. Again, you can't see those holes, but yeah, they are minute. So, but that's not really what we're after today, but that's in a nutshell how a common rail fuel system works.
Wow,
So
thank you. Thank you for being so informative and so explicit, Joe.
that's okay. It's been good fun. So yeah, hopefully you can go brag to your friends about how much you know about diesels now.
I might just do that. They'll be impressed.
Awesome. Right, thanks, Lindy.
Okay.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Joe, for your time. Thank you very much.